What's up, Ragin Nation? My name is Alex Yu and you're watching another episode of the Ragin Ronin review, and today I have a bit of an unexpected movie review for you. The movie I'm going to review is Oldboy. Oldboy is a movie from South Korea that came out in 2003. It is 2012 now, and I'm finally reviewing it. And it is a movie that I actually kind of avoided for a really long time. I've contemplated about watching this movie just because I heard it was quite disturbing and very violent. And I don't have a problem with the violence, but I do have a problem with disturbing movies, and I can't really handle them. Just because when I say disturbing, I mean that it haunts you. It sticks in your mind for at least well over a week after the movie is over. So I didn't want to deal with that because I've had that happen to me before, and it was just really, it kept me unfocused and it was very counterproductive for me. Anyways, I had risotto. Anyways, so my friends were telling me that, Alex, you gotta watch this movie. You gotta watch this. Of all people, you know, I thought you would be the first one to watch this movie. So anyways, yeah, they couldn't believe that I haven't watched it yet. And the main reason was just because of that reason alone. I didn't want to be disturbed by it. A part of me wanted to watch it just because I like South Korean movies, and another part of me doesn't want to watch it. But anyways, I watched it, and what I gotta say is that it is still a very twisted and disturbing movie. The story is twisted, but having it as a revenge thriller is disturbing because it is a very, very vengeful revenge thriller. Anyways, the story is of the character who is played by Choi Min-sik named Oh Dae-soo, and Oh Dae-soo gets imprisoned for 15 years, and during the time that he's been in prison, he still doesn't really know why. And after he's been released from prison, after 15 years, he has 5 days to find out why. And so it plays out kind of like a mystery, but I think it's actually a lot of genres rolled up in one. It's an action movie. There's a little bit of comic relief. There is definitely drama, mystery. I would even say that a little bit of horror, because some things that happen in the movie are pretty horrific. Now I want to review this movie without giving anything away at all. And that's kind of hard to do just because, like I said, the story is just so twisted and it's not like anything you've ever seen before. This is revenge at its finest, and when Oh Dae-soo is out there unleashing vengeance on his enemies, he does it very brutally. And which brings me to talk about the violence in the movie. And I originally thought that the violence in the movie would be, you know, just very gruesome. And not that it isn't or anything, it is. But the thing is that a lot of those scenes are just very suggested violence. Like, you don't actually see the act of it going on, but you see the results of it. And it is pretty brutal. And if you're squeamish for that kind of thing, even though you don't actually see it happen, it's still hard to watch, even though it is just only suggested. But there are scenes of violence in terms of really spectacular action sequences. They have some fight scenes that are really well choreographed, and there's even this one shot which played out so beautifully because it was done all in one take, and it's the much talked about hallway fight scene, and that one was just like poetry because of the camera movements. Oh Dae-soo is just fighting like all these guys, and it's just done in one long, beautiful, wide take. And then they have the music playing in the background, and it just looks like a piece of art. And speaking of art, I just feel that this movie is very artistic in a sense that the revenge story just comes together so beautifully. It's kind of like this movie which I saw. I don't know which movie it was, but maybe you guys will know. And that is a movie where the character sees his killing as art, and then at the end of the movie he says that he's about to paint his masterpiece because he's going to like kill lots of people. I forgot what that movie was, but it's kind of like that because what you see in the end, the way that the revenge is exacted on his enemies is very poetic. It's very artistic. It's not visually artistic, but as a story itself, it just comes together so beautifully. So in that sense, it is actually a pretty brilliant piece of storytelling. Speaking of the story, if Quentin Tarantino married Christopher Nolan and had a baby in South Korea, it'd be Park Chan-wook. Because Oldboy is really a result of Nolan's storytelling and Tarantino's just twisted violence all blended in one. and they had a baby, and that would be Oldboy. And I think that's a pretty accurate way to describe it, because this movie is just so ridiculous, but at the same time, it's a great story. You have great characters, and the movie just captures your attention from beginning to end, because you're trying to figure out, just like Odesu, what is he imprisoned for? We're trying to figure that out, and it's one of the most intriguing questions of the entire movie. And once you find out, nothing can prepare you for it. Let's just say that Hollywood and Western audiences will find this subject matter quite unacceptable. It would definitely be a taboo subject. Speaking of which, Hollywood is planning to remake this movie, and I am totally against the remake. Originally, they're going to have Will Smith play the character of Odesu and Steven Spielberg directed, but after negative fan reaction, they decided against it. The project was dead. But then Spike Lee brought new life to it, and he was going to cast Josh Brolin. Now, I do, of course, believe that this movie should never be remade, but if they're going to remake it anyways, I would say that Josh Brolin would be the right guy to play the character of Odesu. Of course, it's not going to be called Odesu. But like I said, this movie cannot be remade. And one of the biggest reasons why is because this is a South Korean movie, which has a lot of cultural aspects to it. And what makes this movie work is because of those cultural aspects. If you strip that away, then the movie is not interesting. And on top of that, they said that the Hollywood remake is going to take away that big thing that was so controversial and replace it with something else. And I just feel that, wait a minute, if you replace that thing, which I won't talk about, then the movie is no longer a remake. And if it's no longer a remake, then you don't have to even call it Oldboy anymore. You might as well call it something else, but if you call it something else, then everybody will complain that you're just ripping off Oldboy. So let's just say that you don't remake this movie. Just don't remake it, because it's a masterpiece in itself. This is a revenge movie. It's a very brutally violent revenge movie, but it's also violent in the sense that it assaults your mind. It is just something that sticks with you. It's a very, very psychological thing, and that's how it is disturbing. The story is very disturbing, and I don't think a lot of people can handle that sort of thing. Before I watched this movie, I was just trying to think to myself, what could he possibly be imprisoned for? It must be some gang-related stuff, or some like government thing, conspiracy, whatever. Holy cow, it had nothing to do with that. So there you have it. There's my review of Oldboy. I can't say that I can recommend this movie just because, like I said, it's not a movie that I would normally watch just because it's pretty disturbing. But it is a movie that I can recommend to film buffs, fans of art house films, and film students. Definitely check that out if you are one of those three things. But as for general moviegoers, definitely you probably want to stay away from this movie. If you're open-minded and you're not squeamish, then maybe you might want to check it out. Even though I don't recommend it, I still say that it is a really good movie in the sense that it's a great story. It's a great story, and as a movie as a whole, this movie is a really, really great movie. It's what I would call very brave filmmaking. Not a lot of directors would tackle this kind of subject matter, but I would say that Park Chan-wook did an awesome job, and I do want to check out the rest of his movies from the Vengeance trilogy. Oldboy is the second installment in his Vengeance trilogy. Anyways, I give this movie an 8.5 out of 10. It's definitely a great movie, but I can't recommend it to general moviegoers. So there you have it. There's my review of Oldboy. If you enjoyed this review, you can show me some support by clicking that like button, subscribe to me on YouTube, and also you can like me on Facebook, The Ragin Nation. If you have any questions, you can tweet them to me on Twitter at Ragin Nation, and I'll do my best to answer them on camera on Twitter Tuesdays. My name is Alex Yu, and thanks for watching another episode of the Ragin Ronin Review. I'll see you next time. Peace. For example, it really answers, where did all his resources come from? His origins are more complex than that of Tony Stark. Tony Stark just happens to have everything just because he has a lot of money. But in Batman Begins, even though he has money, we learn where all these things came from. It also